everyone, and welcome to Life as a Med Student. In this video I'm going to be doing part 2 of my review of how 4th year went, and if you didn't see part 1, I've put a link to that video in the description below, so do go and check that one out if you've not done so already. At the end of that video I said that I'd talk more in this video about the things that made 4th year a bit tricky, a bit more difficult than previous years. Because while overall it has been a very enjoyable year, I have found that mainly because of the prospect of having my final exams in 4th year. The year there's always been this sense of, am I preparing myself well enough for those final exams? Because the thing is, you're on placement from Monday to Friday pretty much, from 9 to 5. I have found it a lot more difficult this year to fit in significant chunks of time to do my revision and to actually study for those finals. And part of me actually wonders if the year hadn't been cut short because of the coronavirus outbreak. In case you don't know, I haven't seen the other video, my term came to an end barely a couple of weeks into March, at which point we were told that we wouldn't be returning to placement before September. And I suspect that if that hadn't been the case, I might have been moving towards a bit of a disaster, really, because I've not really had many days of, or any days actually, if I think about it, where I've sat down with textbooks or past questions and tried to learn the content in that way. And obviously, you know, your final exams it's not just made up of what you've studied in 4th year, it's what you've covered in mainly years 2, 3 and 4. I certainly found myself a bit more worried in 4th year about the prospect of doing those exams. Now, the other thing that I found a bit more challenging in 4th year is that when you're actually on placements, you'll find that the doctors that are supervising you, once you tell them that you're a 4th year student, all of a sudden they just expect a lot more from you. And I've always found that you might be on a rather obscure specialty like ophthalmology or ENT, ear, nose and throat, and your supervising doctor will assume that you know details about the specific specialty you're on when you might not have, even considered starting to cover that as part of your revision yet. And it can feel a bit embarrassing when, they cotton on to the fact that you don't know as much as they were expecting you to. Now, of course, the biggest challenge that I think everyone will have found to be the case this year was when the coronavirus outbreak meant that essentially our clinical studies have come to an end. So the thing is, we're still expected to sit our exams. They've moved it to September, while it would have normally been in summer, I think June, July time. Due to the circumstances, we've been told our exams will be going ahead in September. But for a lot of us, there are big rotations that we've not had. So for me, I've missed out on about 3/4 of my paediatrics placement. I've not had any of my 2-month core medicine placement yet, which is when we'd be in the hospital wards on the respiratory wards or the cardiology wards or the renal wards. So that's, heart, lungs and kidneys, which is obviously a big part of medicine. And actually, I think that block is the biggest part of our final exams in terms of the written papers. And so to not actually have that clinical experience, 3 months worth of it, I can see that being something of an issue later down the line. If not for these exams, I feel like you definitely feel that once you've eventually qualified as a doctor, to have missed out on 3 months of where you do the majority of your training, your learning, which is in the hospitals. Personally, I think that your textbook learning and just doing questions, it's helpful in the sense that you could probably pass your exam questions learning like that. But I do feel like not just me, but obviously all the other students out there are going to struggle to replicate that sort of real scenario learning, learning on the job, if you like. For the time being, I suppose all I can do now, like the majority of people, is continue following the quarantine rules that are in place and just give my thanks to all the people out there who are tackling the crisis head on the front line. For now, like I say, everyone keep safe and thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.